What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my movie review series. Today we'll be discussing Jurassic World Rebirth. Rated PG-13, released in 2025, released as an action/science fiction movie with a runtime of 2 hours and 13 minutes. So you know how we do it, a little general impressions. I will give the movie a letter grade A to F, the American school system. A being well done, B being entertaining, C being whatever, D being off-putting, and F meaning I turned off the movie. And so we're back with the 7th installment of the Jurassic Park universe. Absolute cultural staples, the first two movies. After Jurassic Park Dominion, definitely got to say this series has taken a sharp nosedive down. And so once I give my letter grade, if you've not seen the video or the movie and would like to, you're going to want to shut off this video because there will be spoiler alerts. And so, like I said, it was released in 2025. It was directed by Gareth Edwards. The overall setting is 5 years after Jurassic World Dominion. Kind of the just immediate setting you get is that, you know, you have this 5 years after Dominion, but the dinosaurs now don't really garner that much public interest, and their population's kind of centralized on zones in the equator because they've been released into the world, you know, kind of not intentionally, but they're amongst humans now irreversibly, and they've kind of settled to places in the equator. And so I thought that might have some potential. Hey, maybe we're going to do something new. But overall, I thought there was a stunning lack of originality, a stunning lack of, again, first two movies, cultural staples. And then it's just always the same type of theme. Hey, world-saving drug, we need to get, or some sort of progressive health benefit from these animals. We're going to need this super secret team. We're going to go where we're not supposed to, and we're going to make a big moral decision at the end. And so overall, it was just, again, a very strong franchise, and then the last several installments have been very, very weak. The only actress or actor that I recognized was Scarlett Johansson. She plays the lead female role, and I thought she did not do a good job, or again, the writing was not very good. So overall, I really struggled to find anything strong about this movie. Really no originality, no sort of branching off of, hey, we can do something interesting or new with the dinosaurs. Hey, we can do something interesting or new with this overall universe or landscape we've created. And so you just kind of have this core team that's going to try to extract some, again, heart disease specifically, but just some heart muscle or heart tissue or heart blood to develop these pharmaceuticals to, you know, make a big moral decision. Should we help everybody or should we help this pharmaceutical company? A very cliche kind of trite for these type of movies. And so we have this extraction team, and then another main focus of our characterizations is just this family that's kind of like sailing from, I forget where, but it's like Suriname and French Guiana is kind of the geography location, present day geography. And so those are your main characters. Overall, there was nothing really strong about the movie. Did have a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes and had a 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb. I thought that was extremely, extremely generous, rated PG-13. I'm going to go ahead and give this a flat D. I thought this was rather off-putting. Again, you have an expectation, Jurassic Park, this great franchise, and now just nothing. I saw nothing novel about the plot line, to the point where because you're back-weighted by a strong franchise, and you have something to build off of, I thought this would be off-putting. If it was a storyline, like it was a first movie of a storyline, probably would have been like a C-, but we're going to give this a D. I did not find this entertaining. And so, if you've not seen the movie, there will be spoiler alerts. We'll say what we can about the plot. So, we open up Scarlett Johansson, character Zora Bennett, who again I just thought throughout was unconvincing the entire time. She's this extreme special ops, joint sock, J-sock, super extractor person. The characterization's not convincing in any way to me. But she's there, she's at some place in, I think it's off French Guiana, one of these little islands, and she's there doing some top secret research. There's a Snickers bar, the containment room gets contaminated, it gets opened. And then there's this big dinosaur. So that was another thing with like, hey, what are we going to do with the dinosaurs because each subsequent Jurassic Park movie, we just make the dinosaurs bigger and louder. So I figured, hey, maybe we've picked up on that and we're going to do something different. Nope, now we make the dinosaurs bigger and louder. And so we don't get to the new dinosaur to the very end, but frankly, again, since we're already in the spoiler alert zone, it's pretty much like the alien cephalization, like the head structure of the alien, like Alien versus Predator, just kind of like slapped onto a really big dinosaur. Because kind of the theme is, hey, these leftover dinosaurs, now that, again, you get some introduction screens where it sets up the environment, the setting, and this is where he says, you know, the dinosaurs are clustered around the equator and not many people are interested in them. Another one of the main characters is this Dr. Henry Loomis, and he's kind of this museum curator, this PhD type scientist type, where, hey, you know, he can't run his exhibit or be this dinosaur expert because the public has lost interest. And so Scarlett Johansson's at this facility, and it's just this premonition scene or this starting scene. And the timeline was kind of weird. You get a sign, like I said, this is like 17 years ago, and then after that 17 years ago, then you get another like little screen that says this is 35 years after this accident. But it's, again, Scarlett Johansson's like partner gets trapped in there with this big alien dinosaur, and he gets eaten, and then you don't see that creature until the very kind of end of the movie. But that's really all they do with the dinosaurs throughout the entire movie, which again I thought was extremely weak to build off or to continue the Jurassic Park franchise. But Scarlett Johansson, super secret extraordinaire, is kind of like, hey, she meets up with this. I think it's the Martin Krebs character, but he's like the pharmaceutical. He's the big money guy. Again, very cliche, very in line with Jurassic Park and other movies in the same type of genre of, hey, let's kind of monetize or push the extremes of developing drugs. Another kind of movie, not super relevant, but the movie Old, where it's just like, you know, we're going to have these rocks and it's going to speed up the lifespan and we're going to do this for science. That same type of overall motivation. And this is our pharmaceutical guy, our money bankroll guy, Martin Krebs. And so he meets up with Scarlett Johansson and is like, hey, we're now going to kind of just get this museum curator guy. They grab him. They have a really weird kind of cinematography scene or choice. There's some levity scenes where it's trying to make it a little funny, and it's just not. He's just chewing his Altoids, and Scarlett Johansson's like, have you made your decision yet? Then he kind of just chews his Altoids, and he's like, nope, or now I'm ready. I'm just scratching my head like this is already downhill. It's like at the very beginning of the movie. And so they link up, they fly down to somewhere in northern South America with Duncan Kincaid, who's just, again, a previous operative with Scarlett Johansson's character, and they kind of like shake down the money guy. They're like, hey, you know, the guy with the boat is this Duncan Kincaid, and he's like, oh, I forgot, my boat's not going to go there. And it's this kind of ploy, or they're running this shakedown to get this guy to double the money. And it's supposed to kind of be done in like a levity type of way, because they have a third character come in after the money guy, like, oh yeah, of course I'll double the money. And then this third guy comes in, and the Duncan Kincaid and Scarlett Johansson, they're like, oh, we don't need to do the ploy, it already worked. So there's attempts at like kind of like comic, not relief because it's not like a super serious movie, but just like levity scenes, and it just don't work at all. But that's what they do, and so the overall kind of plot or objective of their mission is to go to these places where these equator zones are off limits, they're strictly forbidden, humans are not supposed to go there at all. But they're going to go there and they have to get the heart muscles or blood from the hearts of 3 different types of, kind of like almost like Pokemon, a land animal, a water animal, and a sky animal is kind of the theme of the movie. And so that's their overall objective. That's what they do throughout the whole thing. And then our other main group of people is this family. We have a dad, a daughter, the boyfriend of the daughter, Xavier Dobbs, and then a younger sister who's probably like 7. And they're parasailing or sailboating across, again, the Atlantic Ocean to some extent. And then this is at the beginning immediately, and the dad's like, oh yeah, of course there's no more dinosaurs, or at least there's only a couple left, because again, the dinosaurs are also getting sick and kind of dying off globally. But of course not. And so there's this big dinosaur, it knocks them off their sailboat, and they call SOS, and it gets picked up by Scarlett Johansson's Operation Boat. And they kind of have this moral dilemma. They end up deciding to go and help the fallen family. And so there's a couple scenes, that whole crew, the dad, daughter, younger sister, and boyfriend, they survive the entire mission and the entire movie. Rated PG-13. There's no real gore or anything. But they get picked up by this military unit, Scarlett Johansson, and they're trying to do their mission. And obviously they're not really doing something legal. So it's like, hey, do we drop these people off? Hey, what do we do with them? But the kind of dinosaurs, they kind of come back. And so now they attack this bigger ship that they're on. Again, I want to say it's a South American family or an American family in South America, but them with this crew, and so they go from that smaller boat to a bigger boat, and they're immediately back and getting attacked. And so people are kind of going crazy. They have these guns to extract the blood. If they get close enough, they just shoot with a harpoon, and some sort of canister with the blood sample will shoot up into the air, and then they can just grab it that way. And so they're able to do that kind of successfully, but they almost knock over the boat. I think one person does get eaten at this point, but they're able to get the first blood sample. The family and the boyfriend, they get knocked back into the ocean. They're kind of running away from these big dinosaurs, and they're like, if we get to the shallow water and get by the rocks, like, it can't attack us. And so they do that. They kind of get, again, meaning they get separated again, but at this point, again, Martin Krebs, I think, but the pharmaceutical rep, the big money guy, he kind of has this decision. The older daughter, is falling off the boat, and she's like, hey, help me, and he kind of lets her fall. So that's a big moral choice throughout the movie is, hey, we just kind of let this girl die because, like, we got what we need, or we're getting what we need with the blood samples. And so regardless, they get separated. The younger daughter from the group kind of like makes friends with one of these little dinosaurs, calls it Dolores. Again, trying to make some sort of, again, side plot development, characterization. Again, super weak. Everything was just weak throughout the movie. But that's what they do. They find another little, again, this is a place that's been developed with, again, research centers, and it's all abandoned. So they see like a raft and a boat, and they go try to get on this boat, and the older daughter goes to get it. When she's right next to it, there's this carcass, and then there's a sleeping T-Rex. And so, I did forget to say at the beginning, this alien-type big dinosaur is called a D-Rex. So it's just like, it's like corny also. But regardless, back to where we were at, and so she tries to there's a canoe and then like an inflatable raft, and she ends up grabbing just like the inflatable raft when it's not inflated, takes it outside, inflates it, and it wakes up the big T-Rex. The T-Rex bites it, there's this stream, she's able to like float down the stream, and somehow the teeth of the T-Rex doesn't puncture the life raft, and the family's able to get on the boat after the T-Rex can't get through this like stone kind of choke point that the T-Rex just can't maneuver through. So that kind of happens. The military unit group, they get another blood sample. They find the land animals, and it's kind of like the two dinosaurs mating. Again, not in any like weird way, but it's just like that's kind of what's portrayed. And the characters, again, unconvincingly, looking at the astonishing beauty of nature. And so overall, again, another weak point, but just that's what happens. They get the second blood sample, and so now they kind of have to get the third blood sample, and it's kind of from this bird. And so they kind of locate the bird, they kind of drop down into the nest, they meet back up, the two groups meet back up at some point. Again, I'm not going to get all of the plot points. Not too strong, not missing out on much. But regardless, the airborne ones is kind of like, just kind of like hops around. They kind of like get into its nest. It's kind of like on this cliffside, and they're able to extract this blood sample. And at this point, Scarlett Johansson and the main scientist guy, the scientist is like, trying to get throughout the movies Scarlett Johansson to agree with him that this cure for heart disease or coronary heart disease should be for everybody, not just for this pharmaceutical company to go and patent it. And so at this point, she kind of agrees with him. And so when the family meets back up, the money guy, the pharmaceutical guy, that's when the older daughter's like, hey, this guy let me fall off the boat. And so, again, super weak point, but the guy jumps in a car and kind of skedaddles off. And so now you have the big group, both the family and the military type unit, minus the pharmaceutical guy. Also, he finds a Glock. Like, he just goes off into the woods and there's a plane with a downed pilot and he's just literally holding a Glock outside, like just dangling. He's been dead for, he's skeleton. But he's got his grip going. Regardless, the guy gets a gun, and so he has a little bit of firepower. No other like firearms, I think, in the entire movie. Just in terms of like power dynamics of the characters, even though it's portrayed as a military operation, military unit. And so that's what happens, and then they kind of have this last hurrah. The pharmaceutical guy gets all of the 3 samples in this little briefcase. And then the bird is flying around another one of these abandoned research facilities, and they kind of go in and out of different just like bars and gates to try, like there's some allusion to the original Jurassic Parks, like the classic scene of the daughter and the young son, the brother and sister, when they're in like that kitchen, and the velociraptors have the big nails and they're kind of like chasing the kids through that kitchen scene. There's some allusion to that. It doesn't work at all, but that's what I'm talking about, like moving around these gates or these bars. And so a little bit of that, but regardless, the pharmaceutical rep goes to like take the samples and leave, and then he runs into the big alien alien super dinosaur comes out at the end, and it's literally again like the cephalization, the head structure of Alien, and then just on a big dinosaur with like more arms. And so it's just like a super weird choice. It's like that's all we could come up with, like with the progression of dinosaurs and how they interact with humans. So again, super weak, but that's what happens. And then Scarlett Johansson and the scientist guy resolve to give the cure for coronary heart disease to everybody. So overall, D, I thought it was off-putting in the context of the overall strength of the Jurassic Park series. Is certainly the first several movies, or 2 to 3. Past that, I think there's seven total. So after the first 2, maybe the third, definitely has fallen off pretty hard. And so I knew it going into it. I was like, I'm going to click it for sure. It's Jurassic Park, but it's just like the last several have been extremely weak. So just a D. Thought it was off-putting. But that is what I have for Jurassic Park, or Jurassic World Rebirth. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.